brands have, Savantika, evolved with time, and it seems like you can kind of help us here, which is that companies have to work hard now, especially let's look at this new cohort, right? So how have brands in general evolved, and what kind of things would they have to do to attract the Gen Z as a consumer cohort, right? Now, here is a population which was born between 97 to 2012. The context is obviously very unique. So just any kind of, top of mind points about, how brands have evolved. And then let's talk about in detail, or, as much as you can share on what can brands do to get the Gen Z and understand them as consumers.
So, let me flip your question a little bit. Brands have evolved because consumers evolved. And it's actually literally a sort of a self-fulfilling thing. We changed because a lot of things changed in our lives, which are the brands which changed, or technology changed them, or the Industrial Revolution changed it for our forefathers. Because things changed, we changed, and hence brands needed to change with this change. So actually, it's something which is almost self-fulfilling. I love the example of radios, right? We've all seen radios. Gen Z does not know. Well, they know because they've read about it, but they will never use a radio, right? That device ceases to exist.
Mhm.
But people like you who do podcasts are actually the new age radio. You're creating that. Spotify is a version of radio. It is on demand, but it is a version of radio. Now, if you see those clunky instruments, which I've still seen, and my household still has one, and everybody who comes in feels, oh my God, you have an antique. Really? I mean, it's antique. That device has altered. What we listen to on radio has altered. Our music has changed. Our content has gone through a sea change. The way we listen has changed. It used to be one program fits all. It was broadcast and we were all listening to it. But today it's completely on demand. You can switch it. You can stop it, switch it. So this evolution of what we call radio, or our parents definitely spent a lot of time listening to, for Gen Z, this exists. There are still songs and music and, audio plays and podcasts coming to Gen Z. But the names have changed, trends have changed. More importantly is the underbelly, which is this generation is more about on demand. They do not like mass production and mass communication. They would prefer customization. Can they choose what they want to hear, when they want to hear? So the generation has changed. It is more fluid. Their timelines, the way they live their day, it is more fluid. Whereas if you go back, it was far more structured for a lot of people. Dinner time was fixed. When you went out, it's still loosely structured. But, there could be someone who listens to podcasts in the middle of the day. There could be someone who listens to at the end of the day. So it's become from a one to many to a 1:1 customized medium, because that is the need of the current generation and Gen Z. So to my mind, brands have to change. Otherwise, they will lose relevance in the customer. And the greatest example is Nokia, a brand which was completely ubiquitous with any mobile phone. I remember a time where almost everybody had a Nokia phone. And that is a brand which ceased to exist when phones didn't cease to exist.
Yeah.
Phones still continue. In fact, they're with us like never before.
Yep.
But this is a brand which lost relevance for its consumers. And the minute a brand loses relevance, it just sort of automatically goes away. They didn't have a story which was relevant to the consumer. So I see that a lot of times. I mean, I see that. I live in a very small town now. I moved from Bombay. I see that. And there used to be so many restaurants which opened maybe 10 years ago, which did not survive the test of time, because they did not serve what the current generation wanted. They did not look like where people wanted to go. Essentially, what I'm saying is they did not tell the story in a form that was acceptable to the current consumer, or which was not just acceptable, which was part of their lives. You have to be a part of your consumers' lives. The lives today, the generation today is very different, and you need to constantly evolve. Actually, we talk a lot about Gen Z today, but even when the Gen Y or the millennials were coming up, brands had to evolve. You and I know, if you go online, Coca-Cola through the years, how the bottling changed, how the advertising. For the Gen X, brands had to evolve. For Gen Y or millennials, brand had to. For Gen Z, I genuinely think the evolution has to be much faster, because the context, thanks to technology that we're living in today, everything changes virtually at the speed of light. So brands have to continuously evolve, because that's what the consumer wants.